It's a topic no one seems to want to talk about, be it shame or a feeling of failure. The issue of miscarriage and loss is one many feel they have to combat alone. My guest today is hoping that the taboo surrounding miscarriages will stop, and she hopes her firsthand story will help that happen. Welcome to the program, Adriel.
Thanks so much for having me.
You shared that you have 6 children, but only 3 share your dinner table.
Mm-hmm.
You've lost 3 children in miscarriages. Let's talk first about Scarlett Grace and how that happened.
Yeah, you know, I had 2 sons. Normal pregnancies, everything was fine. And so when we got pregnant with our 3rd, we sailed into it with innocence.
A little girl,
joy,
you're excited.
And so when we lost her, we were blindsided. You know the possibilities out there, obviously, but because we had already had successful pregnancies, it just hit us. It surprises everyone, but we were devastated.
Yeah. Tell me about that devastation. I have some friends who have lost babies, and in journeying with them, just witnessing the pain inside, especially as a mom, and feeling like your body is supposed to be a life giver.
Mm-hmm. I mean, everyone experiences their grief differently, obviously, but I think some of what I felt was this isolation. I felt like, does anyone understand? Like, actually really understand what this feels like? Whenever you're in trauma, it brings all of your big questions up. Why did this happen?
Yeah.
You know, where was God in the midst of this? Is there something wrong with me? You know, could I have done something differently? We're told over and over, especially during those early weeks of pregnancies, all the do's and don'ts. And so, of course, when you lose a baby, you start questioning, was there a do and don't that I didn't adhere to? You know, why did this happen? So for me, I think with that first pregnancy, especially my first miscarriage, it was just overwhelming sadness. That was the main thing I felt.
And you named your little girl Scarlett Grace. Why did you name her that?
We named her that because to us, Scarlett represented sacrifice, and it represented the beauty and the pain and life, and then we chose Grace as her middle name because we knew that somehow in the midst of all of this that God would unleash grace through our suffering and through our pain.
Why do you think there is such a taboo when it comes to miscarriage?
It's such an intangible form of loss. You know, when someone's on the outside, people understand the thing that's missing in your life. But something like miscarriage and other forms of abstract loss as well, it's not just that someone is gone, but it's the expectation of what life was going to be like. It is the hope for the future that has been completely turned around. And it's so personal, I think, also because women immediately think, is there something wrong with me? Is there something wrong with my womanhood, with my body? And we sort of grow up thinking that it's a given. Most of us grow up thinking it's a given. We're going to have kids. And so really things have been just for centuries. This has been not talked about. Social media is changing things now, and it helps to hear that other women have gone through it. But the tide is still changing on that.
You talk about the feeling of guilt as well, and a song of lament. And I really picked up on that, the song of lament, and being able to just lament at loss. Do you feel that in going through miscarriage that you've been given permission to lament, to actually grieve?
Yeah, I think that is a great question. I didn't need permission. I just took it because it was so devastating to me that I didn't know what to do unless I could grieve. So I for me personally, I didn't care what was right or wrong, and there is no right or wrong. But even culturally, I just thought, I'm not going to get through this unless I can grieve this. And, you know, I grew up in the church, and I feel like as Christians, we're often really good at celebrating with one another, and we're good at rejoicing, you know, but we're not always good at holding space for people's pain and entering in. And so for me, my first miscarriage was where I really learned what it means to lament, and what it means to a lament it's not just a cry of sadness, but it's a cry of sadness that's tinged with a hope for deliverance. You know, there's something about a lament that is not just, this is painful, but this is painful and there must be more. Yeah. This is painful and I need hope. I need deliverance.
Well, when we get back, we're going to take a quick break, but when we return, Adriel and her husband, Ryan, are reeling from the loss of their little girl, Scarlett Grace, but no one could have prepared them for the experience of more loss and pain. We'll be right back.